Stand in front of the glass at a zoo, close enough to a full-grown lion or tiger that only a few inches of reinforced acrylic separate you. Most of the time, the animal ignores you completely. But every so often it turns its head, and its eyes find yours, and it holds them there. It does not blink, it does not look away. And in that instant, even though every rational part of your brain knows the glass is solid and you are perfectly safe, something cold and ancient moves through your body. A stillness. A whisper that says, "Do not move." You are not imagining it. What you're feeling in that moment is the opening move, and some very old part of you recognizes it instantly. Because that frozen, silent stare is not aggression. It is not a threat. It is something far colder, far more calculated, and far more intelligent than most people ever realize. And by the time this is over, you'll understand exactly what is happening in those quiet seconds before the deadliest animals alive decide to move. Start with a lioness at a waterhole. She spots a zebra drinking maybe 40 meters off, and she goes completely still. Her eyes lock onto that one animal and simply stay there. No blinking, no shifting, no sound. To anyone watching, nothing is happening at all. She might hold it for 10 minutes, 20, sometimes half an hour. But inside that stillness, she is running a full analysis, measuring the distance, reading the wind, studying how the zebra's weight sits on its legs, whether it looks tired, whether it looks ready. Because here's what most people never stop to consider. A lioness does not chase every zebra she sees. That would get her killed. A healthy adult zebra at a dead run can throw a kick powerful enough to shatter a lion's jaw, and a lion with a broken jaw cannot eat. And a lion that cannot eat dies slowly. So before a single muscle moves, she has already answered one question. Is this one worth it? That stare is the risk assessment. And it's only the first step of a sequence that every apex predator on the planet runs, whether it swims, flies, or walks. Scientists who study hunting behavior lay it out in stages: orient and eye, then stalk, then chase, then grab, then the kill. The eye comes first. Nothing else in the sequence fires until it does. This isn't a quirk of lions. It's hundreds of millions of years of evolution wired into the nervous system of every top predator alive, from the shark in cold water to the eagle at altitude. Every one of them looks first. Every one of them calculates first. But the reason behind the stare isn't the same for all of them, and that's where it gets genuinely strange. Take the great white shark, an animal most people picture as pure mindless frenzy. Watch one actually hunt, and you see the opposite. When a white shark moves in on a seal colony, it doesn't just charge. It hangs back, often below and behind, and it watches. And it isn't watching the group. It's watching one individual. Researchers who study white shark predation have found that the sharks single out the animals that are easiest to take, the ones drifting away from the safety of the group, the ones moving a little wrong. An injured seal swims with a subtle asymmetry, a fractional hesitation, and the shark reads it. Because a healthy seal that spots the shark will turn a clean, easy ambush into an exhausting chase. And a chase burns energy, and in cold water where a meal is never guaranteed, wasted energy can kill a predator just as surely as a broken jaw. So the shark waits and watches until it knows the cheapest path to a kill. It's not chaos, it's accounting. But here's where the stare turns into something more than observation, because the gaze doesn't just feed information to the hunter, it does something to the hunted. When a prey animal realizes it's being watched by a predator, its threat detection system slams on. Heart rate climbs, muscles tighten, pupils widen, and then, in a huge number of species, something that looks completely backwards happens. The animal freezes. It doesn't run. It goes rigid and still. This is called tonic immobility, and it's hardwired into prey nervous systems across hundreds of species, and the logic behind it is ancient. A predator that hunts by movement will lock onto anything that moves. So going motionless can make you disappear into the background clutter. Against a dim-sighted, motion-triggered hunter, freezing works. The problem is that an apex predator is not that kind of hunter. It has sharp, forward-facing eyes and a bottomless supply of patience. Against a lion, a tiger, or a shark, holding perfectly still while it stares at you isn't camouflage. It's surrender. And the great predators worked this out long ago. The longer they hold the gaze, the deeper the prey sinks into that paralysis. The stare stops being a measurement and becomes a weapon. Wolves take this further than almost anything else alive. When a pack meets a herd of elk or caribou, they usually don't just launch into a chase. They move through the herd, unhurried, and they stare, not at the crowd, but at particular animals. And the animals they fix on start to react. The ones that panic and bolt get marked for pursuit almost instantly. The ones that hold their ground, that turn and meet the wolf's eyes and refuse to break contact, are very often left alone. A caribou that stands and stares back is sending a message the wolf understands. I see you, I'm not weak, and running me down will cost you more than I'm worth. The one that breaks and runs is saying the opposite. So the wolf's stare isn't really about how the prey looks. It's a test of how the prey responds to being looked at. They're reading minds through the eyes and hunting on what they find. Sometimes the exchange becomes an outright negotiation, and no example is cleaner than the cheetah. A cheetah will occasionally stare at a gazelle from the open, not hidden at all, deliberately visible. And instead of fleeing, the gazelle does something that looks absurd. It starts leaping straight up into the air, stiff-legged, again and again. This behavior is called stodding, and it is anything but panic. It's a precise signal. The gazelle is telling the cheetah, in a language both species evolved to share, that it has seen the hunter, that it is young and strong and full of running, and that a chase will end in failure. And remarkably often, it works. Cheetahs that watch a gazelle stot clearly will frequently give up before the hunt even begins. And they have every reason to listen, because the cheetah cannot afford a bad bet. Its top speed is close to 60 miles an hour, but a full sprint drains it almost completely, and a failed chase can leave it too spent to try again for hours. Collapse from exhaustion is a genuine cause of death for cheetahs in the wild. So the cheetah stares, the gazelle answers, and in that silent back and forth, the outcome is often settled before a single stride is taken. No claws, no blood, just eyes. Then there are the predators built entirely around the weight. For a tiger or a crocodile, being seen too early ruins everything. So the stare becomes a slow, unbroken thread of concentration. A tiger will pick out a target from a long way off and begin closing the gap by inches, and cameras in Indian reserves have caught tigers spending most of an hour creeping through grass toward a single deer. Through all of it, the eyes never leave the target, because the strike depends on one thing, knowing not where the prey is, but where it's about to be. A tiger doesn't lunge at the animal's current position. It lunges at the space the animal is moving into. That kind of prediction is only possible through continuous, locked visual tracking held for as long as it takes. When it finally explodes from cover, it usually has less than 20 feet to cover, and the deer has almost no time to react because the tiger already decided exactly how this ends. The crocodile is the purest version of this patience. Crocodilians in one form or another have haunted the water's edge for over 200 million years, watching the dinosaurs rise and vanish, and their ambush has been sharpened across that entire span. A crocodile at a river crossing can lie motionless for hours, only the eyes on top of its skull breaking the surface, the whole body hidden below. And it isn't merely waiting, it's memorizing. It learns the rhythm of the animal at the bank, how it lowers its head to drink, how long it holds still, where its weight sits when it's most off balance. It doesn't strike at the first chance. It strikes at the perfect one, the exact second the neck is stretched out and the legs can't push back. When it comes, a saltwater crocodile's bite is the strongest ever directly measured in a living animal, around 3,700 pounds per square inch, against a human bite of maybe 160. But the bite was never the clever part. The clever part was the hours of silent watching that made the bite unmissable. So pull all of it together, and the answer to why apex predators stare before they strike stops being mysterious. The stare is risk assessment. Is this target worth the danger? The stare is energy math. What is the cheapest route to a meal in a world where failed hunts starve you? The stare is pressure. The gaze itself trips the prey's alarm system and forces it to freeze, flee, or signal, and every one of those responses hands the predator more information. And the stare is a test. How an animal reacts to being watched exposes its health, its nerve, and its odds of getting away. Underneath all the claws and speed and crushing jaws sits one quiet truth. Every top predator has evolved to obey. The most dangerous moment of a hunt is the hunt itself. Misjudge, get injured, and you become a predator that can no longer hunt, which is simply a slower way of dying. So the stare isn't patience. It's survival intelligence in its oldest, purest form. The move that makes every other weapon actually work. Which brings it back to you at the glass. That cold stillness you feel when a big cat holds your eyes and won't let go isn't a story you're telling yourself. Researchers have noticed the same thing across species and continents for decades. When a large predator fixes its gaze and holds it, something in the watched animal goes quiet in a very particular way. Not just fear, something older, an overwhelming sense that moving would be the worst possible thing to do. That response was never learned. It's built in, written into the nervous systems of animals that have spent hundreds of millions of years on the wrong end of that gaze, because the ones who felt it and froze at the right moment sometimes lived, and the ones who didn't were eaten. Your ancestors were prey for far longer than your species has been anything else. The great hunters were reading their targets long before the first human ever stood upright. And somewhere beneath all your certainty about the glass and your safety, a much older part of you still speaks that language perfectly and still knows exactly what that unbroken stare has meant for 200 million years. That's what the stare really is. Not a look, a language. The oldest one on Earth, spoken in total silence, by animals that never once needed a word.